Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. For Throwback Thursday, my name is Richard Clark. I've been a hypnotherapist for the last 8 years and I've been a holistic therapist for the last 14 years. For Throwback Thursday, I talk about my favourite albums, my favourite TV shows and my favourite films. So I'm going to talk about a series about a guy called Wong Kar Wai, who is a Hong Kong director and writer. And I've explained about two of his films already, Chung King Express. I've also explained about My Blueberry Nights, which I think is one of my favourite romantic films. But I'm going to talk about his trilogy films, and this trilogy, which is a Informal Trilogy. And I'm going to talk about the first film of this, which was in 1990, was called The Days of Being Wild. Now, The Days of Being Wild is written and directed by Wong Kar Wai. It stars some of the best-known actors and actresses in Hong Kong at the time. And the film marks the first collaboration between Wong and cinematography Christopher Doyle. Now, Christopher Doyle, the cinematographer, actually worked with him for 6 more films. And his cinematography is what actually makes these films excellent. The visuals, the ideas, and you'll see these with the clips you'll see during the whole thing.
幾多錢啊
2毫子，按樽加豆類。
你叫咩名？
我做咩話俾你知啊？
我知你叫咩名，應該叫做叫蘇麗珍。
邊個話俾你知㗎？
你今晚發夢會見到我。
So the plot, the movie begins in 1960 Hong Kong. Yuddy, a smooth-talking playboy, seduces Li-zhen but is uninterested in pursuing a serious relationship with her. Li-zhen, who wants to marry him, is heartbroken and decides to leave. Yuddy moves on to a new relationship with a vivacious cabaret dancer, Mimi. His friend Zeb is also attracted to her, but she doesn't reciprocate his feelings. Yuddy has this tense relationship with his adoptive mother Rebecca, a former prostitute, after she reveals that he is adopted. Now, he also doesn't approve of her choice of lovers, much younger than her, who he thinks have taken advantage of her wealth. She initially refuses to reveal who his birth mother is, but eventually relents and tells him that she lives in the Philippines. So this is the idea of Days of Being Wild. It's about the idea of these prostitutes, how they've lived these wonderful, colourful lives and so forth. And also the main character, Yuddy. So this is kind of where the idea comes from. Anyway, for this Yuddy to find out more about his actual birth mother, Li-zhen finds solace in a person called Tide, a policeman who does his rounds near Yuddy's house. Tide dreams of becoming a sailor, but he chooses to be a policeman to stay and look after his mother. Li-zhen talks about her failed love affair, her successful cousin's impending marriage, and how she misses home. Li-zhen, who works at the ticket stall of a soccer stadium, promises Tide a free ticket to a match of his choice, and Tide tells her to call him on a phone booth he passes every night if she needs anyone else to talk to. Their near romance is hinted but never materialises. When his mother passes, Tide leaves to become a sailor. So this is kind of the difference. It's like Li-zhen wants to be with Yuddy, but Yuddy doesn't want to be with her. Li-zhen and Tide create a romance, but because of circumstances, he then decides that he wants to fulfill his dreams. So this is very much common in hypnotherapy, is that a lot of people then they feel that they've relationships or haven't gone right or should have gone right, and they feel resentment or regret about it. But again, our destiny and our path is very important.
你今日有啲唔同喎。
冇啊，有咩唔同啊？
冇？你耳仔唔紅嘅？
你究竟想點啫？
我想同你做朋友啫。
我點解同佢做朋友啊？
睇下我嘅錶。
點解睇住你錶啫
1分鐘啊！
夠鐘啦，講啦。
今日幾多號
？16號咯。
4月16。1960年4月16號下晝3點之前嘅1分鐘，你同我喺埋一齊。因為你，我會記得嗰1分鐘。由而家開始，我哋就係1分鐘嘅朋友。呢個係事實嚟嘅，你追唔返嘅，因為已經過去咗。我體會咗你。
佢有冇因為我而記得嗰分鐘？我唔知，但我一直都記住呢個人。後尾佢真係日日都嚟，我哋就由1分鐘嘅朋友變成2分鐘嘅朋友。冇幾耐，我每日起碼見1個鐘頭。
So again, I'll explain the rest of this story because I think it's very important and how it links to therapy and so forth. Meanwhile, Yuddy decides to find his birth mother and leaves for the Philippines, giving his car to Zeb and without informing Mimi. So Mimi is his new girlfriend. Mimi is distraught and resolves to follow him. Zeb, his love still unrequited, sells Yuddy's car to finance her trip and asks her to come back to him if she doesn't find Yuddy. So a bit of manipulation here, but again, because Zeb is in fact in love with Mimi. This happens sometimes two people can love the same person. Yuddy finds his mother house, but she refuses to see him. Now Tide, now a sailor on a stopover in the Philippines, finds a drunk Yuddy passed out on the street and brings him to his hotel room. So this is where Tide and now Yuddy meet. Now obviously they don't know each other, but obviously Tide knows Li-zhen, who's Yuddy's ex. Yuddy doesn't recognise him but accepts his assistant. He gets into a fight at the railway station over payment for an American passport and stabs a man. Tide saves him and then escape aboard a train. Tide asks if he remembers what happened on a particular date to an exact minute, referring to something he told Li-zhen at the start of their courtship.
幾錢啊
2毫子，按樽加豆領。
你叫咩名？
我做咩話俾你知啊？
我知你叫咩名。應該叫做叫蘇麗珍。
邊個話俾你知㗎？
你今晚發夢會見到我。
我尋晚冇發夢見到你喎。
嘅你都冇瞓，咁冇用，你一定會見到我。你今日有啲唔同喎。
冇啊，有咩唔同啊？
冇？你耳仔唔紅嘅？
你究竟想點啫？
冇，想同你做朋友啫。
我點解同佢做朋友啊？
睇下我嘅錶。
點解睇住你錶啫
1分鐘啊！
夠鐘啦，講啦。
今日幾號
？16號咯。
4月16。1960年4月16號下晝3點之前1分鐘，你同我喺埋一齊。因為你，我會記得嗰1分鐘。由而家開始，我哋就係1分鐘嘅朋友。呢個係事實嚟嘅，你追唔返嘅。因為已經過去咗。我體會咗你。
佢有冇因為我而記得嗰分鐘？我唔知，但我一直都記住呢個人。後尾佢真係日日都嚟，我哋就由1分鐘嘅朋友變成2分鐘嘅朋友。冇幾耐，我每日起碼見1個鐘頭。
He says that he remembers and tells him it would be best to tell Li-zhen that he doesn't. Tide returns from a conversation with the train conductor to find Yuddy has been shot to death. A final sequence shows Mimi having arrived in the Philippines, Li-zhen closing up at the ticket stall and the phone at the booth ringing. The movie ends with a shot of a slick young man smoking and readying himself in a darkened room. So Tide, obviously through what he's seen, now doesn't want to be with Li-zhen, and this whole sort of circular idea of what actually happens. So it's quite a sad film actually, but the idea of it is this idea of how people can make their decisions or make the wrong decisions and so forth. So what we have to understand is also another thing is very important is Yuddy then tries to find out his birth mum, and that sometimes is very traumatic for some people because some people find out their birth mum, their mother who's brought them up, their adoptive parents have brought them up, is not their birth parents. This happens a lot in hypnotherapy as well, and we have to work with that, reframe the resentment towards that. But again, people do things for different choices. People make choices which don't always sound great to the person, but they actually have a better long-term framework and also help people in their lives. So the Days of Being Wild, like I said, it is like we call a loose trilogy, but it's again the ideas of these love romantic relationships and how they can change. So Days of Being Wild, because it was in 1990, I mean we're looking at 30-something years ago, 34 years ago, there's bits of it are dated. I mean again, it's the translation of Days of Being Wild is the true story of a hooligan. So again, it's about this perception on things and how that works. But again, very good film. I would probably say Chungking Express is more interesting, but then the next two films I'm going to describe I think are even more push the boundaries of Days Being Wild, and I think they're actually incredible films, the next two. So please listen to the next two in the series. If you're also interested in wanting to know, not finding out about your birth mother or anything, but about maybe also finding out romantic relationships, stop being regretful about previous relationships and moving on to another relationship or a new partner, please let me know. Contact me at richclark.net. If not, please message me here on YouTube, on Instagram. You'll find me on Facebook, and also I'm setting up a TikTok channel and a new media platform I'm going to be on soon as well. Anyway, these videos are all on YouTube. Hope to see you